All right, everyone, welcome to this next module. We're going to continue our discussion with understanding the genre, in particular, the 6 modes of documentary. Remember, we have poetic, expository, observational, participatory, reflexive, and performative. And this is a classification of subgenre within documentary. It helps us to organize and communicate about a documentary, and there can always be overlap. Some of these principles that you'll hear with these modes, there's obvious overlap between within a documentary that it could kind of fit into uh, one or more of these modes. In fact, one of the films we'll watch does a great job of explaining this. We've talked about poetic documentary and we've talked about reflexive documentary. Poetic documentary are built on a lack of narrative structure. They will often evoke a mood. We sometimes refer to them as experimental, avant-garde. Time and space are definitely manipulated in a more direct way in that there might not be correlation between them. There's things expressed like tone, texture of the shot, the use of line and shape, and they're often blended with sound to create a visceral experience to evoke something within the audience. They might explore a single topic, multiple topics, but it's filmed in a non-linear. It's not filmed in a non-linear way. It's presented to us in a non-linear fashion. And then the reflexive documentary is concerned with the showing the process of filmmaking, the discussion of it being a documentary. Um, it can be as simple as something as the filming of it, the editing of it. We're connecting the viewer with the world of the filmmaking process, thereby deconstructing it a little bit, especially the hidden style of Hollywood. And it connects the audience with the view of the filmmaker and their attitude towards um, filmmaking being done in this fashion. We talked about it being a large part within the Soviet montage theory, and that came across to Brechtian apparatus theory, different theories that kind of built off of this in different ways. So we're going to be talking about expository documentary and the performative documentary, and I'll tell you what, they're both exactly what they sound like. Expository documentary. I'm very Aristotelian in my uh, belief in language and belief in defining what a word is. So take a word like expository, which you probably know from writing a thesis. Um, it's intended to explain or describe something from the Oxford Dictionary. These are films that we think of when we think of documentaries. They're the most traditional, the documentaries we probably grew up watching. Information is explained in a very straightforward point of view. We can think of nature documentaries, anything like that. March of the Penguins is a good example. They will often have an omnipresent or godlike voiceover. So if we remember this one, hopefully, I'm going to say right now, hopefully this audio is working. If it doesn't, you can look up the title if you're curious, but I'm praying that you can hear this audio. Computer's been glitchy.
There is a mysterious ritual that dates back thousands of years. No living creature has survived it, except the penguin. They have wings, but cannot fly. They're birds that think they're fish. And every year, they embark on a nearly impossible journey to find a mate.
Okay, so it it presents itself in and of what it is. This is going to be a expository documentary about penguins. It's not going to formulate anything necessarily controversial. It's just simply presenting fact. And that's kind of all there is to it. It's a specific topic, well researched, and presented to the audience. Um, and the proof and the arguments are demonstrated visually by what is captured and backed up by things like the credibility of experts, things like that. Any kind of provable information, images, photos, things like that. If you've ever seen like a Ken Burns documentary, that would kind of fall into this as well. It's not always just the filmed image, but anything that is being presented as factual. I often think of the BBC when I think of expository documentaries, especially. I don't know if you've ever seen one from the 70s or 80s. They've done a lot of incredible ones about the rise of Hitler, for instance, something like that, where it's just presenting out fact. And the aim and goal is first and foremost fact. Emotion is more or less tied up within the fact of what's going on. So, for instance, in March of the Penguin, there might be an emotional scene about a penguin death. There's a bit where an egg won't hatch, and they kind of evoke a little emotion that goes along with it, but it is not at the core of what the story is. But certainly, as we talked about before, a documentary should inform and entertain, and part of that entertainment is emotionality that kind of goes along with the story. Providing information is the main goal. Again, think History Channel, think A&E, what used to be A&E, I should say, completely different now. Science and nature documentaries, good examples of expository. Now we have performative documentaries. And these films, exactly kind of what they sound like. It's the performance of the filmmaker within the world of their subject. How are they interacting? So it's more than just they're interviewing people. They're there in that world. There's an aspect of that, but that they're really engaged in what's going on. So if you think of something like Icarus that came out, where the filmmaker is actually riding in races, he's doping like professional bike riders do to see if he can get away with it. And this is also a good example of Morgan Spurlock and Super Size Me. If you haven't seen it, definitely recommend it. Put it on your list. And let's see if it'll play.
Hello, may I help you?
Yeah, could I get the double quarter pounder with cheese meal?
Medical supersize.
I think I'm gonna have to go supersize.
It's hard for me to watch him go through this.
So it seems like you're starting to get addicted to it now.
You saw these numbers, right? These numbers are outrageous.
Unfortunately, you caused some major harm to your heart, your liver, your blood.
You're gonna die. You'll die.
I want more.
You gotta stop.
Supersize the American way. Get it back.
So this is a good example of the filmmaker putting themselves in that world. They're performing within it. These films are often built on subjectivity. That is to say, a filmmaker is usually passionate about proving a point and immerses in that particular world of a subject. So we're kind of going off of knowing that they already have an agenda, for lack of a better word. So, for instance, Super Size Me, we obviously know he thinks McDonald's is not healthy for you. So what happens if you eat McDonald's every meal for a month? So unlike expository documentaries, these films often will try and evoke emotion from the audience and use this as a way of legitimizing their argument. So it's a little bit more emotion-based than fact-based. The facts are there, but we're really, at the core of it, trying to get something from the audience in the way of their reaction to what they're seeing, and hope that change can come, growth can come, in that way. So how you feel, I know after watching this, certainly changed the way I felt about eating at McDonald's. Definitely don't do it as often, or fast food in general. So that's what the goal of films like this is to get your audience to react in a certain way. And it's not always about proving, but rather sharing a perspective. So what it's like to be blank. So this could also be involvement within a community that is the subject. Living among a culture, something like that, can have an sort of a performative element to it as well. So those are our two new modes to discuss. Let me show you what you'll be doing for assignments these next 2 weeks. Okay, so what we have here is our next module, Module 4, and we will be discussing Nanook of the North. You've already been reading about it, considered the first feature-length documentary. Here is the link to the movie. If for some reason a link does not work, in here, this one should. If you ever have trouble with any of them, click the title right up here and it'll take you to the website versus going through Canvas where it's embedded. Just as a fair warning, there are some scenes with hunting. You're allowed to kind of skip them if you want. I certainly don't want anybody being upsetted by this, but I do want you to take in what is widely considered a great documentary and a pioneering documentary. Certainly a controversial documentary, which is what your assignment will be with it. So, Nanook of the North, given that Robert Flaherty set out in an anthropological way to capture the Inuit people, he ended up staging many of the events of the filmmaking. In your opinion, does this discredit the movie? Does the filmmaker have responsibility to be as authentic as possible? Or can liberties be taken if the end goal is something presumably important, such as in the case of preserving the identity of a culture? So in 200 words, please write a response to both the film and the film essay. So the film essay is right here. It's not very long, and it goes a little bit in depth with it. So this is your expository film that you'll be watching. And then we have what is one of my favorite documentaries. And it has an interesting amount of reflexive, expository, and performative aspects to it, which is why I thought this would be a good one. I was having a hard time finding one that I thought would work, but certainly this is a great example. This is Werner Herzog, great filmmaker. He actually was in Arkansas not long ago at UCA. I didn't get a chance to see it, but anyway, let me know if the link's not working. It's right here. I found this watchdocumentaries.com. It's got a lot of, for educational purposes, documentaries out there. This is definitely a little bit, I don't know if you're familiar with the story. I don't want to give too many things away. It's kind of it's a sad story, but it's very interesting and engaging. And then you'll, excuse me, have a little assignment to go along with this. So this film employs elements of almost all the modes of documentary, focusing on reflexive, expository, and performative. Can you indicate examples of each of these modes? 3 to 5 sentences per mode. If you're having a hard time with it, that's okay. I don't expect you to be perfect at this and identifying these elements, but do your best with it. And then opinion time. Do you believe, as a documentary filmmaker, that Timothy was doing something good by living among the bears? Was he helping or hurting the cause of the preservation of their species? 150 words. So you'll note I did not make your assignments that intense. I know midterms are coming up, and you will have a bit to do with that. I added a syllabus addendum, and I believe I emailed it, but I wanted to go over it just really quick. Any late work past 1 day is a 50% deduction. Any late work over a day is a 0. If you need an extension, something like that, email me before the due date if you can. I try and give you plenty of time to work on this, but I certainly know what it's like to feel overwhelmed by your senior year, junior year, trying to get stuff done. Extensions are kind of up to my discretion, but you can look over this for more detail. Any written assignment, I'm going to kind of allow for 2 grammar / spelling mistakes. 1 grammar, 1 spelling, 2. After that, I'm going to kind of deduct points accordingly. Hasn't been a huge issue in here. Assignment submission, if any student accidentally or inadvertently submits the wrong assignment to a designated assignment area on Canvas, I'm going to give it a 0 and write a note, wrong assignment submission. Now, I know accidents happen. The 0 is just to get your attention, and it lets me know that you submitted the wrong thing. You have 1 week to correct it by uploading the correct document. I would email me and let me know, hey, I've switched it out. If Canvas won't allow for resubmission, you can email it to me. The problem with emailing is I worry it gets lost in translation, as it were. But it's better to get it in. Now, if the thing is if you're going in over a week, it's not really fair to those who were turning things in correctly and on time. And there's no way of me really knowing if you actually did the work or not. So I think a week is more than fair. Check your grades early and often, and I can see when I posted the grades, so I can certainly update it from there. But always email me. That is an update on Module 4 and your midterm. And please email me if you have any questions. And good luck. I hope you enjoy these films. They're, again, it's interesting that we have sort of animal aspects to all of these. But I hope you enjoy them. They're all ones that have meant a lot to me over the years. Certainly Nanook of the North is, it's a little bit slower. It's older, 1922. But I found one that had music with it, not the original score that went along with it. But it helps give it a little pacing. Anyway, enjoy, and I look forward to seeing your work.